Hi, today I'm gonna go over Natsume Soseki's 10 Night of Dreams, talking about dream number 10. I'm also gonna compare it to the film adaptation Yume Juya because it's really different. Part 1, the book. In the book, the story is told via an unnamed narrator, speaking to a friend named Ken-san, who gives him the details of a young man in the town named Shotaro. After having gone missing for several days, Shotaro suddenly arrives back in town having a high temperature and is now recovering in bed. The narrator describes Shotaro as being this extremely honest fellow, and he's like the best looking man in the whole neighborhood. He's very hot. However, he has this weird habit of women watching. In the evenings, he puts on a Panama hat, sits by the door of the fruit shop, and watches the faces of passing women, which keeps him really entertained for hours. When there aren't many women, he just kind of looks at the fruit. He doesn't buy anything, he just looks at the colors and enjoys the nice exotic fruits, and dreams about one day owning a fruit shop of his own. That evening, a beautiful woman stops by and catches his eye. She's dressed very nicely, and there's something about her face that's not really mentioned that's very attractive to him, so he's like, oh, man. She's hot. So she asks him to carry this really heavy fruit basket back to her home, which he accepts right away. And his friends and relatives are really worried that he's gone. He just kind of disappears. And this act of kindness is described by them as way too far. Then he suddenly gets back after 7 days of being missing, and he simply says that he went to the mountains. Yeah, okay, buddy. The narrator then relates the story of what happened according to Shotaro. After taking a very long train ride into the country, they come to a large field of nothing but green grass. She walks him all the way across until they come to a very steep, tall cliff that seems to stretch down for miles. The woman then invites Shotaro to jump off the cliff. Of course, Shotaro politely refuses. Yeah, 大丈夫です. To which the woman invites him to jump again and again and again. 断ります。本当にいいです。いやいやいやいやいやいやいやいやいやいや。うるさいよ、飛ばないんだってば。The woman then asks. Shotaro is then described to hate pigs. So of course he wouldn't want to be licked by one, but not enough to jump off and kill himself. Suddenly, a pig appears and tries to get near him. Shotaro reluctantly taps the pig on the snout with his little cane, and the pig just flies off the cliff and dies. After breathing a sigh of relief, another pig also appears and tries to rub up on him with his pig nose. Shotaro again reluctantly swings his cane, and this pig also flies off the cliff. He then looks back to the field to find tens of thousands of pigs, like a swarm of bees, all heading straight for him with the intent to lick. One by one, he taps each pig gingerly on the nose, and one by one, they fall into the pit. He keeps this up for 7 days and 6 nights until his arm feels like jelly, and finally, a pig is able to lick him, causing him to collapse and symbolically die. The story ends with the narrator noting that Ken-san used this experience to warn him not to stare too much at women, and then mentions that he sure would like Shotaro's Panama hat if he dies. In the end, it seems like Shotaro's health is failing, and it is implied that he dies. The silver lining is that Ken-san gets a sexy new Panama hat. Part 2, Interpretation. As for the moral explicitly taught by the story, 1, don't women watch. It's creepy, and people don't like it. Number 2, don't be idle and don't be lazy. Shotaro is painted as a young man without much ambition. He sits by the fruit shop and dreams of one day owning one, but doesn't do anything to further that. His time wasting is almost implied in a negative light, and of course if he wasn't wasting his time, he wouldn't have been trapped by the woman. Number 3, beauty does not equal trustworthiness. Putting aside the explicit moral lessons, let's talk about what the dream actually means. Eugenia Prassel notes, the woman reminds such Western female archetypes as Circe from Ulysses, who turned sailors into pigs. Soseki often portrayed women as intensely self-centered beings, this being no exception. The woman in the story is portrayed as a kind of siren, using physical attraction to lure men to their deaths. Only she also incorporated a cruel form of physical and emotional torture by pitting him between the cliff and the pigs. Damian Flanagan writes, Soseki rejected the idea that a writer, or indeed a painter, was someone who depicted the world around them. Rather, he believed that an artist was someone who depicted a reflection of the world that had been transformed by the mirror of their own internal consciousness. So, if it was indeed a reflection of Soseki's internal consciousness, we find that he indeed had some kind of pre-notion about female encounters, as is evident in his other writings. The scenario of the pigs and the cliff could also be interpreted as the conflict between Japan and its westernization. While it was pitted between extinction, the cliff, and succumbing to the never-ending onslaught of Western influences, the pigs, Japan eventually let its defenses down and was licked by the American pigs! Or, in other words, it was westernized. This makes a lot of sense, as Soseki was born at the dawn of the Meiji era, when Japan's identity began to be influenced by new Western scientific, technological, philosophical, political, legal, and aesthetic ideas. Eugenia Prassel concludes, thus, the dream proclaims the inability to escape the nightmare, the inability to wake up from the new reality, and the only exit is through death. In this case, it's the death of Japan's past, of being an isolated, feudal society. Part 3! Movie! In 2007, Nikatsu Pictures released a film adaptation titled Yume Juya, a collaboration of 11 directors and 6 writers, culminating in 10 short films. The 10th Night was directed by Yudai Yamaguchi, and runs for just over 10 minutes. In the film, instead of just a fever, Shotaro stumbles into town with organs hanging out, an eyeball dislodged, and an open head wound spilling brain matter all over the floor. Oh, gross! Oh, jeez! 2 of the townsfolk, including Mark from the JET program over here, revive him by doing this. Hey look, it's Ken-san! What? I know that guy! Who, in this movie, is not the storyteller, but just a comedy relief character, whose only desire is Shotaro's Panama hat, just like in the book. Realizing that he's probably going to die soon, Shotaro then tells the story of what happened firsthand. The setup of Shotaro's character is similar but exaggerated. He's described as a loafer, only working afternoons. But again, that he's the best looking kid in town and good-hearted. Unlike the book, Shotaro is shown to work at the fruit shop rather than just sit outside it. Women are quite taken with him and come from miles around just to see him. Also different is that rather than just watch, Shotaro keeps a tally of attractive women who look at him and a tally of ugly women. Every time a cutie looks his way, cha-ching, cute tally. Every time someone who looks like this looks at him, cha-ching, scary tally. He then takes his cane knife and kills them. He literally kills every ugly girl he sees. He then places a little pig lantern over each grave that he digs. Oh my gosh, man, how many ugly people are there in your town? What would Soseki think if he watched this? So the woman arrives, named Yoshino here. Shotaro is smitten, they take a train to the country, cross a field, and that's where the similarities end! Yoshino owns a pig-themed restaurant specializing in butadon, pork on rice. He's sat down and given the options of pork, or pork! Then, like the pig of Christmas Past, the girl he killed appears with nipples, which almost makes him sick. But the pork looks super tasty, so he forgets about it and eats 23 bowls. Seeing how he's satisfied, Yoshino offers him a behind-the-scenes look at how his food is made. We continue with the pig imagery. Even the workers are like, pigs, I guess? Oh, jeez! It turns out that what he just ate was slices of human flesh, boiled and cooked in fat and sweat, and topped with mucus and spit. Yoshino confronts him, saying that a murderer like himself deserves nothing less. Whoa, jeez! No, big man, he's cornered. If things weren't wacky enough, we suddenly cut to a flashback of Shotaro and his friend, an inventor named Gennai Hiraga, who told him to push a switch on his cane if he was ever in the clutches of monsters. Okay. He pushes it, and oh my gosh! Oh! Shotaro tries to make his escape, but Yoshino is too fast, and she... Are we still reading the same story? Yoshino then reveals her true form, turning out to be this demonic pig thing. Suddenly we're in a 1950s boxing ring, and Yoshino Pig Demon just starts beating the living daylight out of Shotaro. This at first appears to work as he begs for forgiveness and promises that he will never kill again. However, it was just a ruse to distract her, and he's able to defeat the pig with a blow to the head. He then reveals that his terrible wounds all occurred after the fact on his way home. Karma wasn't done with him yet. He then claims he's ready to die, and it seems like, similar to the book, he will. But he lives until he's 138 years old and becomes the world's first astronaut. What's going on in this movie?